welcome here to part 2 with Dudley Evenson, our star performer from soundings.com. An amazing, practical, useful, inspiring interview that we've just had. I want you to listen to part number 1 if you haven't done so already. Breathwork techniques. We're going to get into a deeper understanding of soul, soulmates, awareness, consciousness, chakras, and she shared with us some very practical, useful ideas about and techniques on breath work and what it means in relationship to meditation and quieting the monkey mind. Her new book, Quieting the Monkey Mind, is coming out this fall 2017. And she's a best-selling author with Jack Canfield in the book The Big Secret. She is the fabulous duo part of Dean Evenson and Dudley Evenson, who have soundings.com. We will link to that website below through our sales button here, and the free button above us is to one of their giveaways that may be music and guided meditations. So I want to go into a couple of things I've promised. One would be, of course, how we attract a soulmate, the inner map of consciousness and the chakras, as well as music, how it pertains to that, and then also some more complex breathing technique that really get you into heightened states of consciousness. Like you said, the easy, simple breath work is just the beginning. So all of that in part 2, and maybe who knows what else we discover. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, Dudley, for being here, and I'll just be quiet for a moment and let you run.
Oh, you want me to answer all those questions?
I'll help out.
Well, one of the first things I think a lot of people are interested in when they're, trying to figure out about living their dreams is attracting their soulmate. And I don't have all the answers, but I can only share with you from my own experience, because I had a lot of relationships in my life, and just try this, try that, and get to know people. But it was never quite right. And I also was in the process of my own life path, is discovering who I was. Who am I? What makes me unique? What is my passion? What are my interests in life? And so I had been living in Japan and then getting into photography. And when I came back to New York after that, it was 1968, I lived in Lower East Side, and within a few months, actually what happened, I remember a few months before that, I had I'd had a boyfriend, and it was always this little bit of conflict, and I realized that people mistake conflict in a relationship for excitement. And I did not want that kind of excitement in a relationship. I wanted something that was, meaningful. And I had this, it was kind of like I just said, okay, I'm ready to meet somebody that shares my values and doesn't have to be a macho, sexy guy, whatever might have.
Yes.
Before. I didn't need all this conflict. I didn't want that. I wanted somebody that resonated with me.
Yes.
Who I am. And it was just a kind of a click, you kind of get an awareness. Oh yeah, I think I'm ready. Or specifically, I'm ready to meet somebody that shares my values.
Yes.
Creativity and whatnot. So within a few months, Dean moved in across the hall from me. Dean Evenson moved in across the hall. He'd been finishing up, he just graduated from getting his master's degree in molecular biology. And I remember my roommate and I were into dance and yoga. We would go into that empty apartment and dance or stretch, and I went turning the door, and then the door opens, and there's this guy with his sort of John Lennon glasses, and he was clean shaven at the time, although if you see him today, he's got a beard that goes down below his waist. So the door opens and there's this guy, and I go, oh, but, I couldn't tell if he's young or old. He just had this unusual. So I said, oh, I'm sorry. We were just going to come in and dance on your floor. So I invited him over for tea, and we sat there, and he was so full of so many ideas. He just finished studying science, but he really wasn't going to be a scientist. He was a musician. He played flute. He was interested in recording engineering. He was interested in filmmaking. He just had all these, and art and sculpting. He just had so many things he was interested in. I just chuckled. But we got to know each other over time. And Dean was probably the only person I was ever with that I didn't immediately connect with. It was like, slowly take it easy, get to know him, be friends. Oh, I kept thinking,
yes,
I feel so at home with this person. I feel comfortable. I feel like I am me and I don't have to be anybody but who I am. And boy, that was the light bulb going off. When you realize that you're with somebody that you don't have to kind of act a special way or prove anything with,
Yeah.
it resonated. And then slowly we got to know each other just as friends. And that was, I really recommend that, because when you can be friends,
you
first,
can be friends forever.
and it doesn't matter any of the other parts, you can figure it out.
Yep.
And I remember one time we were down having lunch in Midtown Manhattan, and my boyfriend at the time came in, and no, he was okay.
Yeah, right. You weren't doing anything, right? Okay.
And Dean was my friend, and he didn't even live there. He moved already by that time. And so I said, "Oh, I'm so confused." My boyfriend went back, sat in the back with his. It was just lunchtime. So I said to Dean, "Oh, I don't know what to do. What should I do? I'm so confused." And first I'd said, "Are you really this patient?" Because I knew he wanted me to make up my mind. And he said, "Yes." And he was very patient. He said, "I can't tell you what you should do. I can just say this one thing, that Mike, the guy, he is where he is going to be." And that's all he said. He said, I said, "Oh, okay." And I got it that Dean wasn't where he was going to be. He was going to keep going. He was going to keep growing. He was going to keep evolving. He had so many passions and interests and
Right.
he was interested in. We just resonated on so many levels. And I went, okay, I'm making up my mind. I'm with this guy.
Ah.
I was ready for some adventures. And that was what happened. We had so many adventures.
Oh my God.
So it's just like when you're really clear, as you become clear on who you are, what your interests are, what your passion is, what your values are.
Yes.
What you care about in life. What do you want to, well, I have to say what kind of music do you like? That's kind of helpful. But
yes.
What's your goal in life? What do you want to accomplish while you're here? When you can meet somebody, when you're clear within yourself, then I don't say that person's going to move in across the hall from you or anything immediately. But what it does is the universe, I believe, conspires to go, oh, now I see that person is ready. Or, oh, now I see. And then the universe tends to put things in front of us that are there for us to choose or not choose. So that's kind of one way of looking at it. Be who you are.
I love what you say. Many things what you've said I'd like to just underline. First of all, the sense of giving up the desire to have conflict or that kind of excitement. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are attracted to the opposite, and that turns on the second chakra for some odd reason. Mm-hmm. The polarities attract, but it's hard to live with. Right. It's like maybe we play opposite ends of the musical spectrum. It may be making sparks and fire, but it'll do that for what?
It might burn up.
Yeah, it burns up. And then eventually it's like, wah. The next one you mentioned is sharing values. I mean, first getting to know a person and see, I remember when I watched Don was married with another woman. I was married with Rick, but he was my meditation teacher. And I remember one time he came over to fix our van, our car, an old ancient Impala car. And he laid underneath this car and fixed it on a Sunday afternoon in between all his other works and college he was doing, and donated his time. I looked at him and I thought, no, that I love. I love a generous person. I didn't know that generosity in another person was that great of a deal, but it really was. I am that way, but I also need a partner who is that way. Otherwise, I'll be the one who constantly is giving. So he, and you don't know that first thing. You can't observe. People can make stuff up. So give yourself time. I love that you point that out. And then you find out values. Do you have the same direction towards heaven? Mm-hmm. So I think thank you for all those through a practical story details. How then did you take, let's take it into breathwork and relationship. How did you take fast forward? How did you take breathwork into each other's lives? And how can you recommend using breathwork to get closer? Intimate in the sense of closer in soul, not necessarily sexually, but closer as a being. Can you give us examples and exercises of how to do that?
Well, I think this brings up an interesting topic of how to share spiritual practice with your partner.
Yes.
And that spiritual practice. Because when you can meditate together or sing together or play music together, or I'll even say do artwork together, or go on hikes together, or do things that resonate with you on a spiritual level, because it doesn't have to be sitting, you know,
eye gazing.
only. That you're, or maybe you're in service, maybe you want to help people, and you do it together. So the more, I consider that a spiritual practice. Dean and I have been very fortunate because we've had, well, we are quite similar now. We're different people. We're super different people. We grew up, he was a born again Christian and a, you know, very religious background and no dancing. His first movie he ever saw in a theater was Sound of Music when he was in graduate school. So he was kind of had an isolated, secluded life. And mine was much more free farm, and my parents were, you know, drank alcohol and smoked cigarettes and did all that, you know.
Right.
So we were different people, but on a soul level, we were perfect for each other. So early on in our relationship, we were able to, and also meditation was just coming into awareness, yoga and meditation. I mean, we were just beginning that in the early 70s, late 60s. So that was a big part of our evolution. And plus, we both had a strong Christian caring, you know, we loved the teachings of Jesus, but we also were open-minded. So we looked to the east and the west and the north and the south, and we found spirituality in many, many directions and paths, and particularly the Native Americans and the Indian gurus and that kind of thing. So we learned that, those kind of ideas and practices. And so we kind of grew up together in that. Now, sometimes I will say, and I think it's important to introduce here, that everyone isn't going to be exactly on the same page as their partner, and not to judge it and not to make that a deal breaker, because I just did a secondary coaching training on relationships, and there's things called core values and deal breakers, and sometimes we'll have a deal breaker, but it's important that we don't establish that in our minds.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Right. That I mean, we can certainly harmonize, and it is beautiful. And that's what makes it beautiful, when you know yourself, who you are in a spiritual way. You have your groundwork, and you resonate to someone who can relate to you in similar vibration, whatever their name for it is. So you resonate rather than look at the black hair or whatever it is.
I know. I've heard about people who do couples help you find your perfect person, and they're like, they have a list of physical qualities, and I just think that's just not the place to start, because really it's at the soul that you work with.
And values that we share. So how do we take breath work to create intimacy in a relationship or in any relationship?
Well, one of the things that we teach, and have done this in workshops and then in the book as well, Quieting the Monkey Mind, is the idea of meditating together using breathing and vocal toning and mantra and affirmations. So these all fit together, and singing.
Okay.
So most people don't think of themselves as singers or even musicians, and that's okay. But there's many things that we can do with our voices and with the breath. And the breath is part of it all. So the breath is the primary aspect. Breath is, without breath, there is no life. Breath is prana. Breath is the life force. You know, these are just words, but the fact is, we can live without food or water for days or weeks, but we cannot live without breath.
Not breath, I mean,
So we begin with the breath, but that's just the beginning. And from the breath, we bring in the sound, and the harmonics and the toning.
Right.
I love, Dean and I just love to tone together, and we'll just be on the couch amongst the pillows, and we'll just be, you know, and we'll start with maybe a hum, a low hum. So you just take a deep breath, and then you just let out that. You really feel that humming inside of your head. It's all within your being. We also do it with open vowel tones, with the ah and the o and the e, and we'll go. I'll share with you some of the aspects of toning with the chakras, because that's something that we really, really love to do.
Okay. Yes.
So ways to do these practices with a partner, and as you were asking about,
yes,
spiritual intimacy, and I say the more that we can share a spiritual practice, whether it's praying before a meal, holding hands with your family before when you sit down for a meal. I mean, our kids really had to get used to it. If we were in a restaurant, we're like, oh, holding hands and all. We didn't exactly.
I do it. I do it too. I do it with my employees. I do it with everybody. It's like, here she comes again.
Yeah,
They love it. Yeah, in the end.
The thing is,
it's unity.
Gratitude.
Yes.
And as you said, that's when we can be thankful for what we have right here and now.
And that share that time together. Yes, share together in
opens
gratitude.
The door for receiving what we really maybe want to add to our life. So I think a lot of people forget that the simple
things
of the prayer before a meal. Just thank you. Just a pause, an acknowledgement. And then you can get into these other things where you can really sit down next to each other. I mean, there's things that I teach in the book about, you can sit facing each other. You can put your hand on your partner's heart, or you can close your eyes or look into each other's eyes and then do the same. And that's resonating with your heart chakra. You're giving and receiving unconditional love, so many things that we can do together. And then, I don't know.
So cool. No, that's beautiful. So walk us through it again. We sit, you put your hand on mine. I put mine on yours.
Yeah, we can do that. Or we could put our hands on our own heart. I mean, there's nothing, I think putting your hand on your own heart is a little simpler. You can even do that where you're just feeling it. Maybe hold your partner's hand. So you're holding your partner's hand, and then you put your hand on your own heart, and you just, you look into each other's eyes. There's something that happens when you kind of blur your vision and you're seeing a third eye. So this is the seat of your sixth chakra, the third eye. And there's just something you're kind of, it just does something, you're kind of blurring it, and there's three eyes. There's that aspect, or you can look in your partner's, the right eye.
Primary eye, focal eye, yeah.
So there's those kind of things you can do, but you can sit back to back, you can lie down side by side, you can lie, sit next to each other, you can face the same way. There's many different ways to do it. But the main thing is that you dedicate a period of time together. And I think one of the things, there's different love languages. That's one of the things we learn about in our coaching of couples. I think some people like gifts, some people like flowers. I don't know. That's never been a big deal for me, but spending time together, I think quality time where we're not distracted by something else, where we're not doing, believe me, that, what do you call it, looking at your phone and texting and all that. I think this is something young people might need to look at a little bit. Is quality time when you're with somebody, to be with them fully and to share, just a conversation. Those kind of things enhance intimacy. But then when if you want to take the time to do some of these practices, would you like me to share with you about?
Yes. Yeah, sharing chakra. So the first one is the setting up the breath resonance, and the sounding resonance creates and moves us into a wave type energy. So we become waves together. We interpenetrate. You hear it, you feel it, whatever your senses are. And I love that it takes it outside of the realm of, okay, we're following this particular spiritual path. It's like, it's so natural. Breath and sounding is so natural to every human being. So we can you don't have to go to your boyfriend and say, oh, we're going to do a spiritual exercise now. You can just lay on the couch and say, let's just do this. Or let's just feel it, flow in the breath, in the sounding, and bring it up gently as a little game, and then expand on it, do it again and again. I like the ease of it, of bringing co-resonance and harmonizing into the daily life in special focus time, which I think women crave. And that way, there's something to do. The guy is not having to perform like super psychological treats, I mean, he has to just sound or breathe, right? Okay, so let's take that into chakra exchange. So I would love to hear from you, taking that into exchanging it to connecting with chakras in a relationship, especially in a relationship. We can do this outside of relationship, but tell us how we can bring the intimacy of and bring it together with the inner map of consciousness, like the vibrations.
Well, okay, so sharing about the chakras, I think, is a wonderful way. I call it understanding the psychology of the chakras, because the chakras are simply the doorways between our emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies. And so they resonate with different aspects of who we are. So let's say, for example, the first chakra. This is our root, and it's at the base of our spine, and it's the root of our grounding. So when we're dealing with issues of, say, support, or, you know, do I feel spiritually, emotionally supported, or how is my support on a physical level? Am I
having enough money or food, feeding myself? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. So it's a very basic level. I'll just go through the 7 initially. So that's the first one. The second one is obviously it's your sacral chakra. It's sacred. I call it. It's about relationships. It's about creativity. It's about our connection.
So for anybody who's listening, not familiar with that position, that would be like between navel button and the Venus mount or the genitalia. So right in between, middle.
Right. And so if you think about the elements, the first chakra being the earth element, the second chakra is water. So think about it as flow. So there's a lot of connecting and flowing and purifying that goes on at that level. And then you move up to the third chakra, and you're at the fire. This is our solar plexus. It's our abdomen. It's that diaphragm we were talking about, the diaphragmatic muscle. It's like the pump. It's our energy pump. It's energy. It's our willpower. And we want our will to be in harmony with divine will. We're not trying to, my will, not thy will. It's like,
right.
May they be one. So you think of fire in the belly, and that's your dantian in the Tai Chi, or the, you know, martial arts kind of understanding. And then, so that element is fire. So we go earth, water, fire, and now we're up to the heart chakra, and that's this is your breath, and of course this is at the lungs and heart level. And so this is where we give and receive unconditional love. And what I always say to people is, you know, to use a little affirmation, I give and receive unconditional love. And that is also including myself, because I need to love myself. We often get all caught up in, oh yes, I'm supposed to love others, but I forget about myself because I'm all busy judging myself because I'm not as good a person as I want to be or something. I give and receive unconditional love, and especially for myself. And then you come to the throat chakra, and that's your the fifth chakra. This is about the voice. It's also about the ear level. So it's like communicating, it's listening and speaking. So obviously we don't just want to blast out. I speak my truth clearly and kindly is simple affirmations to consider, because it isn't just about, oh, there, I told you, I got it. It's not about that. That's not why that's not about communication. That's about just speaking something that you want to get off your chest, maybe. But then it might burn bridges. So you really want to be very considerate as you speak. And so
and can what I say be received? Like, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it a good timing? You know, is this the moment? You may want to wait a moment for the stability of the other person. Yeah. So is it kind? Is it necessary?
Or pray for guidance about how to say something to somebody that you maybe need to say it, but you want to be very careful, because it's not about not being real, but it is about being authentic, but also because people have a
considerate
throat chakra. They're going to, it could be that maybe they've not been heard before, they've not been respected, so they kind of close up.
Right. And oftentimes anger is exactly. I was going to say the chakras oftentimes go together, like the solar plexus. You know, it's like here in the middle of our belly. If it's clamped up too suppressed, it won't come out. It won't let the words out. You know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to purify our will and our power, and not underpower, not overpower.
Right. So the purpose of understanding the throat chakra is to communicate clearly and kindly, not.
Yeah.
And it's about true communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that brings you to the sixth chakra. This is the third eye, and this is located really, in fact, when we're meditating, what we want to do is with our eyes closed, we want to focus right here, and it's kind of behind this area. And it's amazing when you bring your focus to that place right behind what would be between your eyes, it just kind of stops all the random thoughts. And that's what we're trying to do with quieting the monkey mind. We really want to get that place. And then this is your vision center. This is your mind. So we have sound at this level, and we have light. And this, mind and dreams. This is where our dreams happen. And so when we can understand and enhance our dreams, we want to open, because a lot of times we have blockages because of somebody said you can't do that, or a parent said, no, that's, you need to be a doctor, not an artist or something. So we block energy at our third eye. So we want to open that up, and we want to open to divine guidance. And that brings us to our crown, and that's, our connections. You imagine a flaming fountain of light, at the, and you can also think of red, orange, yellow, through all the chakras, through the rainbow. So there's that. And then we also have tones that can go with each chakra. So there's, in the quieting the monkey mind, I share with you all the different tones. So there's one system is the vowel toning system, and I could even demonstrate that in a minute. Another one is called the bija mantra, and that's the Sanskrit seed syllables that go with each chakra. And then there's also the Hindustani scale, which is similar to the solfege in our do re mi thing, but it's sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. So it's got, I don't know, for some reason it resonates better in terms of connecting with the chakras. So
So let's take it into a simple exercise we can do with a partner to create. I mean, for one, I would obviously recommend studying sound, breath, light, everything you can get your hands on your path to spirituality, on your path of unfoldment. Sound and the vibrational changes that we go through is absolutely necessary. I feel like Donna and I have been around the block. We met when I was 21 and a half, and we did our growing together as well, and that's one of the realms we explored. And resonating in our chakras is still a daily thing. He can feel when my chakras are opening or closing. When we lay next to each other in bed, we can each feel where the other one is needing to practice opening, or where we can connect more with, vibrate, and then we can take it out of the body beyond the seventh chakra into higher states even, and that comes into the cosmological, galactic states of consciousness and the chakras above the physical ones. But let's just talk about an exercise right now that you may want to talk us through, taking us into a shared experience of chakra and consciousness at that level, with maybe breath and sound involved.
Okay. So I want to share with you the vowel toning system. Am I too far away?
It was, yeah. Your sound turned down suddenly.
Okay. So the vowel toning of the chakras. So we did a little bit of that earlier when we were just using an ah or an o, breathing in and exhaling. So this system was developed by our friend Jonathan Goldman, and I really like it because it's very, it just makes sense. It's just easy, and it tends to work. So what we would do is we would sit opposite each other, and we would go through each of the chakras with a vowel tone, and I'll share with you what those tones are. And then as you're doing them, you can either say to yourself or say together a short affirmation that relates to the chakra. So for instance, we're at the first chakra. The sound is and it's a deep sound, and we would just do that tone. So let's just take a deep breath and let the sound of come out. As you're exhaling, and as you're going through this, we could just do it 3 times. Consider this positive affirmation and just say it mentally. I am grounded and supported. So that would be what you would be focused on. And so that's the issue related at the first chakra. And so as we go through each of the chakras, each one has a different issue. And I'll just share with you what those are. So the first one is, and just say to yourself, I am grounded and supported. And if you like, you can visualize the color red, because we go up through the rainbow.
Right.
So deep breath in. I am grounded and supported. So that's the first.
Grounded and supported.
And so again, in the teaching is one thing, we can get a little distracted because we might have to look it up or remember it. But as we practice, remember I say practice makes perfect, then this becomes second nature to us. And so that's kind of what we're aiming towards. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and actually what I feel, and that is because I've practiced, is I feel as beneath my buttocks, under and between my legs, like, like a petal, like a petal of flower beds, opening up and going whoosh. And it's a felt sense, it's an image I'm putting to a felt sense, but it's like whoosh. And I think it's a good double check when you can't feel it as easily. It's an area to work on. I know for me, the solar plexus was my favorite, I can't quite do it, exercise area, so we all have areas where we're strong and some where we're not. And that, yeah, I love that. And I loved how for a moment, I have to be quiet with this microphone, but we hit a resonant point and the computer was like going, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I have to be careful with the volume here, but it was feeling really nice. You and I came in sync on the third breath.
Right. And you mentioned, well, if we go through this and you notice a little challenge expressing one of the chakra tones, I invite you to consider that level, whether it's the heart chakra, the solar plexus, or the third eye, or whatever. Consider it. Don't do anything about it, but just remind yourself, oh, I had a little trouble at that level. And then you can go back later and kind of think about, well, what are my issues there, or what might I want to perfect or develop, or what do I need to look at that level? Because they will bring up when you have you said you had trouble at the solar plexus. So what'll happen is that just goes, okay, well, what is it about my power center? Because that's your power center. What is it about that you need to consider?
Right. Well, I had to pump it up. I was under, it was like caved in, I couldn't even feel it. I couldn't, like, so people said, oh yeah, I can feel my power. And I'm like going, really?
Oh,
poor thing. I didn't have it, so I had to learn to develop it. There is a good balance. Not having any is just as bad as having too much.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about at every level. Like you could be too powerful, or less, no power, or,
right.
Exactly. All about balance. It's
yeah.
And that's what you're aiming for with all the chakras. You're aiming to get them into balance and your whole being into balance.
Okay.
So let's do the second one. So the second chakra is you're at the level of your sacral, and these are your reproductive organs. And so you're considering the color orange as you come up the color scale. And then you're also, the sound here is ooh. And this is where I am creative and connected, because this is about your relationships. This is about your creativity and how creative are you in your relationship.
Yeah.
And so you want to bring it up at a little higher pitch, and the sound is ooh. I am creative and
okay. I'm going to move my little microphone out of the way. So I want to do this with you, and I want to see and feel the co-resonance. Okay, here we go.
We'll just go deep breath. Ooh. I am creative and connected.
I am creative and connected.
And that brings us to our third chakra. This is our power center.
You know, I felt it in the back of my sacrum right there, you know, that the lower back. It was nice. It was good.
And again, this is just an introduction. You're just getting warmed up. So once you do this on a regular basis and practice it, I recommend practicing outside in nature where you can really let your voice go.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good place. So back to up to the power center, the third chakra. Imagine a golden sun in the center of our being. I am one with the power of the universe. So this is about your willpower, but it's also connecting you with the greater power of the universe. So when we're all trying to, in our little part of the world, trying to figure out what to do or how to make it work or heal the world or make it better, take care of our families, do whatever it is we do, we have access to the power of the universe. And that's one beautiful thing to be aware of. So this is the O, and you want a big O. So you're going to take a deep breath. I am one with the power of the universe. Let that be your mantra inside your mind. So, I am one with the power of the universe. Anything is possible.
Beautiful.
And that brings us to our heart, the fourth chakra. This is giving and receiving unconditional love. So we went from earth, water, fire, now we're at air. And the color here is green. So you went red, orange, yellow, green. And what's interesting, Dean always explains that, of course, we breathe in oxygen. The plants exhale oxygen. They breathe in carbon dioxide, which we exhale. So the whole photosynthetic process of nature, the green of nature, is all about exchanging energy, breath. So I love that.
Exchanging between carbon dioxide and oxygen. Now, and tell us a little bit how we can do this maybe with a partner, because a partner exercise could be that.
Well, what we're doing is we're exchanging energy. You're sitting in front of your partner and you're breathing. You're breathing each other's air. You're breathing in and out, and you are the molecules. You know, what do they say? You've got Julius Caesar's molecule. I don't know. It just goes on.
It's still there. It's everybody's molecules intermingles as we breathe.
And so as you breathe, you're intermingling. And also, I believe that the resonance that you through your the whole body
focus
through your ears, you hear and through every cell of your body.
Yeah,
so that's kind of
and it's beautiful, like in the piano when you strike an E sound, you know, a note of the lower octave E, a higher octave E will co-resonate, and that's like what happens in a relationship. You start co-resonating together.
Yeah. And you want there to be beautiful harmony.
Yeah. Okay,
So we're at a heart chakra level, and this is I give and receive unconditional love. Now, unconditional love doesn't mean I'm going to love you if you're nice to me. This means I'm going to love you no matter what. And that's a hard one for people to consider. And I also always add, I love myself too. I unconditionally love myself, because I think our worst critics are our own minds. We criticize ourselves constantly. We want to be better people. We want to, try to do a good job in life and succeed and be creative and do all the different things, but we're constantly judging ourselves. So that is probably the biggest judgment to let go of. And the first thing to consider when you're opening up to, a healing of all, whether it's, and then again, when you want to stretch that out to be in a relationship, I unconditionally love you, so you might not have done that exactly the way I wanted it, or gee, you did that the other day, and but that's okay. Those are just areas where we'll get to the fifth chakra, but that's where you want to learn to communicate lovingly and kindly and give people feedback, but you're not trying to change each other in a big way. You're accepting each other and loving each other just the way you are in all your magnificence. So that's ah. The sound of the heart chakra is ah. And we did that practicing a little bit earlier when we were just beginning to learn the breathing. So let's just, I give and receive unconditional love, especially for myself. And we'll let a nice, visualize the color green and a nice open vowel sound of ah. Ah. Give and receive unconditional love.
Yummy.
Yeah. So when you can do that with your partner, it only helps. It only helps. It isn't absolutely necessary, but it sure is fun, I think.
And it gives a great, I think, non-verbal way of doing something together that starts a co-resonant pattern. And you learn how to pay attention to the vibration of when it overlaps really well, you know? It's like you become fine-tuned first to the sound, later on you start adding your feeling perception to it, and then even more, you know? We learn to see more and more deeply into the waveform of reality.
Mm-hmm. So moving up to the 5th chakra, this is our throat level, and this is where I speak my truth clearly and kindly. Remember, it isn't just about, I got it out, I had to say what I had to say. No, no, no. I mean, we need to express ourselves, and if you have to do that, you go somewhere else and yell. You say it out loud, but you don't have to. I just think it's really important to be thoughtful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the damage done to human emotions is long-lasting. If you talk to a tree, they may be more forgiving for a while.
You can say
They'll go like, okay, you got it off your chest, now go back and say this.
I speak my truth clearly and kindly. And this is where we visualize the color sky blue. It's very, it's that clarity of and the sound here is I think of it kind of like I am. It's the ego. It's about that, and it's about hi, here I am. Hi, so you're like hi. This is your throat. This is your that communication center.
Right.
So with the color indigo or sky blue, I speak my truth clearly and kindly. Deep breath. Yummy, huh?
Yummy. And each time we focus on a different area, it's really nice how that area gets the support of that vibration. I love that.
One more tool in our toolkit.
Yes.
And now we move up to our third eye. This is our sometimes known as the Christ Center, because this is the seat of our intuition, our inner wisdom, our divine guidance. This is a light. So we went from sound to light. And this is our mind center. Obviously, the monkey mind gets kind of cluttered up in here. And when you're trying to meditate or even go to sleep at night, you may often have a lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda's going on in your head, or I'm not good. I didn't, a lot of self-judgment can come in at this level. So we really want to do a lot of clearing at the third eye chakra, because then the goodness is when you get your mind clear, then the divine guidance and the divine wisdom comes in, because that's what we're aiming for. We're trying to be good people. We're trying to figure out the best choices to make in our lives, or directions or paths to take. And we don't always know. You can make a list. You can do all sorts of things. You can ask friends and neighbors. But what do? You really want to be open to that guidance.
Divine guidance especially, yes.
And your higher self or your angelic self. So,
yeah.
So that's where we want to go, to the light center. And the sound here, the color is blue. And the sound here is A, like, yay, I did it. So I'm going to take it. I am open to divine guidance. And take a deep breath. Yeah. All right. So this brings us to our seventh chakra, our crown. And this is our divine connection, our spirit connection to spirit. When babies are born, they're born with a soft spot right at this point at the top of our head. And the native people think that this is the connection with heaven. They're still right there. And if you're looking at the baby size, they're just still infinitely connected. And as we grow older, through society's conditioning, we end up, this closes up a lot, and we tend to lose our connection, which is why we want to have these spiritual practices.
Yeah.
So that we can reconnect with our divinity and with the part of us that is divine, because we are, in fact, divine beings in physical bodies. We're the bridge. Our soul is the bridge between heaven and earth, and we are just as much a part of anything as we can be. But we often get so caught up in the physical material realities that we forget that. So that's why we have spiritual practices, and that's why if we're wanting to enhance our relationship with a partner, we do it together with the partner to create a greater intimacy in that area.
Greater resonance, yes. So, okay, let's do seventh chakra.
So the seventh chakra, you're at it could be violet, or some people consider it all the colors. It's white light. This is a fountain of light coming out of the top of our heads and actually enveloping us all. So everything's all connected. It isn't chop, chop, chop. It's not all separate. But you can imagine it, whatever works for you.
Okay.
I am one with the greater power of the universe. And you want to imagine those colors, and the sound is E. It's like E. You go real high here. E. Feel the vibrating chakras, feel all the resonances. If you're doing this type of thing with a partner, you can just really feel that deep connection with, it's just all about the beauty of the divine connection, and also the balance between all the chakras. You don't want to have one overpowering another. So kind of a little taste.
And also, in my seminars, I've experienced, and people have constantly experienced this, when they sit with one person, they resonate with one person very well, let's say in their third eye. Both of them really turn on each other's third eye. But yet with another person, they kind of go flop. It doesn't do much. Maybe the other person isn't as strong in the third eye. Maybe their chemistry on that level isn't working synergistically as well. Different people ignite and strengthen and balance us in different ways. And we have different amounts of perception with different people in our own chakras. There's ourself as the ground level, and then there's the you and me together. I really loved our third eye together, yours and mine. It was beautiful. I mean, I love, of course, the higher chakras, but when there are some chakras where two people may or may not harmonize as well, and that's where you can go, okay, well, let's work more on this.
Mhm. I think of our being as almost like a mandala.
Mm.
We're at the center, and perhaps our soulmate is at the top. But then we have many other aspects of our being. So I think it's important to stay open to connecting with all sorts of people, because we learn
Right.
and grow
I
from
love that.
relationships with everyone. And
Yes.
you want to develop different kind of friendships. Some people you may have a more first chakra or second chakra relationship, or some people you may be all out there doing service and you're in this one or that one. But you have different things that you
Yes.
do, because we are complex beings and
Yes.
vast and intricate, and to find one person who's going to satisfy every aspect of your being. I think
Right.
that's else that I would just say about soulmates and partnerships is you don't have to have every aspect of your being satisfied by that one person.
Beautiful.
You want to have many friendships and
Yeah.
family members that you resonate with and that you can relate to on different levels, whether
Yeah.
it's upper level or not. But I just think some people might be expecting their partner to satisfy everything, and it's just not going to happen. That's
Right.
okay. You have
Right. Right.
work.
And that puts a lot of pressure on another person. Yeah. So I thank you so much for bringing that about up into our awareness, because when people start feeling a lack somewhere, it's not reflecting on the partner not capable. I mean, maybe it's at that time of their life. I remember a time in my life when Don was working out of the house and I was doing the inside of the housework, not the housework, but I did the computer work. He was in bookings and he did the outside work. So our timing was very off and needs were very different. I needed to communicate. He needed to come home and just be quiet. So he came home. We just read a poem he had written me at that time period. And you could really clearly see where we were at and where our needs were different. And, then he said, just go and have these kinds of connections with different people. And I did. I meditated with people long distance, so closed my eyes and I had this exploration of inner dimensions, and he was happy to be home and play music, and for an hour just have that to himself rather than be sitting there and eye gazing. It's like different times, and yet 20-30 years later now we're looking back, and that was only a phase in our life.
Mm.
So we can manage to maybe fulfilling different needs at different times with different people for the longevity of developing each in our own way till we, now we have time together and can do everything together. It's a different phase, different decade.
Right. Well, and you mentioned change. I think that's another important.
That's what you were going to mention. Yes.
I wanted to have people consider, because you may start out with one plan or one vision or one dream, and then you get to a certain point in that process of manifesting that dream or vision, and then something comes about, could be world situation, and things change. In our case, we started doing video all throughout the 70s, and our goal was we wanted to learn. We wanted to interview people that had all this wisdom, and we wanted to understand that whole thing about what are we for, not just what we're against. But then at a certain point, we didn't have any distribution for the videos we were making, and we needed to earn a living. And we ended up recording a Ram Dass lecture in Tucson, Arizona in 1979, and we had permission to do that, and took orders for the tapes for $5 each and something. And then we got 50 orders, and we went, oh, people have cassette players at home, audio cassette players. But nobody had video players.
Right.
We didn't have any way to get our stuff out. So we decided to we wanted to learn about distribution. We also wanted to share our music that was starting to happen through that era.
Yeah.
So we switched over and we founded Soundings of the Planet in 1979. And that was our, we switched and we put video aside for many, many years until the technology finally caught up with us. And now we're back into video full bore. So we have lots of videos on our Soundings of the Planet YouTube channel. But, I'm just saying and in terms of our business and Soundings, there were periods when we rose, everything's selling. We get up here, and then all of a sudden we get like we had the 2000 election, and then we had 9/11, and then we went, and everything went down, and then we had to struggle and live on credit card switching and making that, so we had to go from our decade of intentional poverty. Then we were doing pretty well. We had 20 employees. Then we had to cut back. Then we had to, I just invite people to realize that life is a journey. It's a wonderful opportunity to express yourself in many ways, to serve humanity, to serve the planet.
Yep.
But also don't be afraid of change, and be ready to make shifts and changes when necessary. And that's all part of it. And it can be fun. It can be fine. There may be struggles, but you just keep going. We used to do the I Ching a lot. What should we do? And it was like perseverance further. So we just said, okay, I get it. Keep going.
And that is so true. The times are changing so much. Like we grew up in the era of audio recordings and tapes. Then eventually, there was no computer. When we had our first website in 1995, people said nobody's going to buy anything online. They're buying grocery stores, now from grocery stores now online. So times change, and the whole entire business of distribution will change. Everything will change. Our way of relating will change, like we have cell phones to compete with now with our partners, Luckily, when you have an old school partner, they're in equally old school behavior. So pick a person of your era. You don't have to compete that much, but we all change. Thank you for pointing that out.
And staying up to date with the technology. I mean, we're in our 70s, and we keep young people around us to help us do some of the higher tech stuff for sure. We really make sure we've got people around who know what's going on, and we learn, and that's okay, because we're not expected to know everything, but we're willing to do that, and I'm good with the cell phone. I'm good with that. I can,
Awesome.
We're okay with it. It's just you have to be ready to kind of do the due diligence and do the homework.
Right, and keep up.
Yeah.
And what?
Get the right support around you. Be willing to ask for and accept support.
Yeah, I mean, we will be seeing changes in the next 20 years that we haven't conceived of. Yeah, so it'll be very exciting. One of my intentions is to be sure that in the next 20 years, we all practice awareness and consciousness, because we will be surrounded probably I don't know if this is my dream or all of our dreams, but we will have robots around.
Well, I mean, somehow, I don't know. I don't have any robots, I don't think, but I guess the computer's almost a robot.
Yeah, but I mean, they're working on making them human look-alike robots, and they will be there folding our laundry, maybe talking to us about deep emotional issues. And they are, I mean, this is what is in the news. So my real deep intention is practice soul awareness. Do it now, because that way we can't be seduced into this whole concept of that consciousness lies within the speed of calibrating information. That is such a bunch of baloney. If a computer can come up with an answer because it fits all these thoughts together and has figured out how to say the right thing at the right time, like, I really love you. Oh, I think you look distressed. It's like, no, you learn how to penetrate that other being with your presence, and then you really meet. And that's like my dream come true as to what we're here. And I think becoming aware of chakras, like you're just walking us through, these simple exercises are potent, that you have to, if you do them every day, you'll start feeling the chakras become bigger and bigger each day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And on a final note, there's nothing that beats love. Love is going to pass through all these technologies and all the
technologies as the phone rings. That's so awesome. Hello. All right. Well, Dudley, thank you so much for your wisdom of decades, of 7 decades of your life. Very awesome. And yes, let's keep friends around of all ages, of all colors, of all creeds. Make different friends all the time with different people. Just reach out, ask them a question. I think that way we're the biggest contributor to balance and harmony between differences.
And be in nature. Be with the planet, because the planet's going to need all the help it can get.
Yep. And inspire us and ask us. Cool. Namaste. Thank you so much for your presence here, your sharing, and your soundings.com website link will be there, where you have YouTube links, your book, Quieting the Monkey Mind. You will have music, for listening to purchase, and you will have the free downloadable giveaway music and guided meditation up here. So that's soundings.com/dream big, one word, all lowercase. It's soundings.com/dream big, one word, all in small letters. Thank you very much, Dudley.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Bali.
Bye.